Welcome to Fangirl Diaries. This is your fangirl host with the most, Danny, and let's get into today's entry. So I'm going to set the scene. The year was 2000 and something. I don't remember how old I was. I think I was like 7 or 8. And I was in chorus in my Catholic school because I used to go to Catholic school. And we did a whole season of show tunes. And we just so happened to do a show that is set before The Wizard of Oz. And I happened to get a solo in the big group number. I will never forget it because every time I hear that lyric, I always think about that time. And in case everyone was wondering, yes, that show is Wicked. Was my very first Broadway show because a few weeks after I got the solo, which literally was just one line in the song One Short Day. It was supposed to be like a whole, it was supposed to be, I want to point out, it was supposed to be 3 lines and then they cut it to 1 because they wanted to give a lot of people a fair chance. But it was, there are wonders like I've never seen, which is what I say. It was supposed to be, there are wonders like I've never seen, it's all grand and it's all green. But whatever. I got my 1 line. But yeah, a few weeks after that, my uncle, or at least like the family friend who I saw as an uncle at the time, he took me to see Wicked on Broadway. We went to the Gershwin Theater. We had 3rd row seats, and it changed my life for the worse or the better. No, for the better. Since that day, it had to have been in. You know what's funny is that a few years ago, I was really into looking up theater bootlegs online, and you can find them. And I actually found the bootleg for the night that I saw Wicked. And I actually got it wrong as to who I thought I saw. It turns out I saw an understudy, but I didn't have the slip anymore. So I found the actual recording. It was like, I think in November. And I still remember my Elphaba. And I now remember my Glinda, who I actually saw on Broadway, I think a year ago. A year and a half ago, it have to have been, in a show called Kimberly Akimbo. So if you couldn't figure it out, we're doing an episode, obviously, on the film adaptation of Wicked, which is really exciting. I want to point out this movie took, I think, 10 years to put together, or 10 or 15 years, I can't remember, because this was announced years ago, to the point where no one thought this movie was ever going to come out. So the fact that it even actually happened was shocking. And the fact that we got 2 parts of it is amazing. So we're doing this in honor of the fact that by the time this recording airs, I know I'm going to date myself, but it's whatever for the specific episode, part 2 would have already have come out. We're recording this before part 2 comes out. I'm going to go see it possibly with my mom because I saw part 1 with my mom, and I'm really excited, and I'm excited to talk about it because it is a show that is very special to me, and I actually was really shocked with how well a film adaptation it was, if only because musicals nowadays are really hard to adapt into film. That is something that I think a lot of people don't realize, because musicals used to be a big part of like the film industry back in the day. Funny enough, starting with like someone like if you look at stars like Judy Garland. I guess the big one, considering we're talking about The Wizard of Oz. A lot of the movies that she has ever been in have all been musicals, a lot of them. So Wizard of Oz is a musical. Meet Me in St. Louis. Her version of A Star is Born, because she was in the OG Star is Born. I don't remember if it's called Star is Born. So musicals used to be a big part of the film industry, same way like Western movies, and then they fell off, and we got sci-fi movies, superhero movies, all this other stuff came afterwards, and musicals have always kind of been in the back burner. They've kind of slowly become just the Disney movies when it comes to musicals. There have been some hits here and there like Chicago and Nine, but lately they haven't been doing as well, especially the Disney musicals, than you would think. Because when you look at the movies before Wicked, I think this was the reason why a lot of people were like, oh, we're getting Wicked. Oh, it's going to be terrible. It's because like the last couple of musical movies we got was like, for the worst one of them all, Cats, which was tragic. I love Cats, the musical, and it's terrible. Rock of Ages, which is horrible. It was horrible. And those are the only 2 I can think of the top of my head. I could not tell you what other musical adaptations have been done. I know we're gonna get at some point 10 years from now, Merrily We Will Are Wrong, film adaptation, which is being filmed in person because it's like set in the life. God forbid if any of those actors pass away, like knock on wood, before that's finished filming, because wow, it's gonna be a lot of time wasted. I don't know what we had some hits. Like, I'm trying to think of what other musical movies are coming out soon. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but we've had like decent ones in the past. Hairspray was okay. Phantom of the Opera I liked, but it could have been better. So again, musicals have always been a part of the film industry. It's just very on and off. Are you looking up films? I will say the problem with looking up musical films is that some of them ones are listed are original films, and then other ones are more adapted from stage musicals that have done well, haven't done well. Wicked is the most recent one. And I think right now Wicked is the only movie musical that is still technically on Broadway. Because Hairspray came out and then Hairspray on Broadway closed. Rock of Ages, I actually went to see Rock of Ages on Broadway when the film came out because they made a joke about it because we're in New York City. Every year they do, if you're ever coming to New York in the summer, every Thursday, a lot of the Broadway companies will go to Bryant Park and they'll perform because it's really close to the theater district, so it's easy for them to come down. And the year of Rock of Ages came out on Broadway, came out in theaters. It was on Broadway. They were promoting the film at Broadway at Bryant Park because Tom Cruise was in the movie. For some reason, Tom Cruise was in Rock of Ages. I don't know why. And they made the joke of like, oh, Tom Cruise isn't here, but we are. And I'm like, it's a good thing Tom Cruise isn't here because that fucker can't sing for shit. So yeah, it's one of those things where like we don't get a lot of Broadway to movie adaptations lately. We had Annie. I forgot about Annie. But Annie's always done. Annie gets done every couple of years. And it's a hit or miss. I wasn't too fond of the most recent film adaptation of Annie. Not because Annie was black. It was just, I hate when they take musicals like that and then make them modern. It was like kind of dumb. I was like, why are we modernizing Annie? Of all things. But whatever. So I just rambled off on musical theater. As you can tell, I really love musical theater. So we're doing Wicked. Oh, they did the last 5 years. I just remember they did the last 5 years. Yeah. Oh, and Les Miserables. See what I mean? I keep forgetting. Les Mis was boring. That shit was 3 hours long. It was. I love Les Mis as a musical. How many musical movies are you looking at? It's a long list, right? Name me one, and I'll tell you if it was good or bad.
West Side Story.
I have a personal vendetta against West Side Story. I'm Puerto Rican, by the way. And I don't know about you guys, but doing Romeo and Juliet set back in the day where it's kind of racist. And it's the Puerto Ricans against the Italians, and it's just it's a weird history when it comes to that musical. You know, most of the actors in the original production weren't Puerto Rican. I think there was only 2 of them. Luckily, one of them won the Oscar. The most recent edition had more Hispanics. Granted, Maria, for some reason, is never played by an actual Puerto Rican. She's never. When they revived on Broadway, not the most recent production, but the one beforehand, because I don't know about the recent one, but the one that got revived on Broadway like in 2008 or 9, Lin-Manuel worked on it. He did the production of West Side Story that came out 2009 was after In the Heights. He actually helped I think he helped work on changing some of the songs to Spanish. So they did some of the shows where the Puerto Ricans were singing in Spanish. Maria was not played by a Puerto Rican. In the film, it's what's her name? Who's in the Hunger Games? The one who played Lucy Gray. Oh my god, no, I know, I can't remember what her name is. It's the top of my head. Lilia, hurry Google. It's oh my god. Who is it?
Natalie Wood?
No, that's first off, Natalie Wood has been dead for years.
I'm sorry, I looked at the wrong West Side Story.
Oh my god.
Oh, Rachel Zegler?
Yeah, Rachel Zegler. I love her. She's fantastic. She's not Puerto Rican. I think she's like, I want to say half Cuban.
Colombian.
She's not Colombian. She's Colombian?
Her mom is Colombian American.
See?
And her dad is Polish American.
See? Nothing against that. I'm also Colombian. No, but Maria's never played by a Puerto Rican. Natalie Wood I think Natalie was Italian. Rest in peace. You don't have to look it up. I don't care. You're looking it up, aren't you? We're rambling a lot about West Side Story. But yeah, I didn't watch that last film. I heard it was okay. It won an Oscar for featured actress. But it's just I don't care for West Side Story. In the Heights, I'll talk about In the Heights. So the director of Wicked, I think it's John Chu, he directed the film adaptation of In the Heights. I did not see it. And the reason I didn't see it is that In the Heights is kind of like a personal, I have like a personal, what is the word I'm looking for, attachment to it. I saw it with my grandmother, who is still at this moment very much alive. But the storyline to it kind of reminds me of like my grandmother and my family a lot. And I kind of was like hesitant to see it adapted to film because I knew if I didn't like it, I was going to be really mad at it. I've seen some parts of it. I will watch it at some point. Maybe I'll do a review on it for the show. I will say the one scene that I have seen that I really liked was how they adapted the one song I was scared that they were going to mess up, which was Pansete y Fe. I can't with my Spanish when I have to talk to Mike. It's a really sad song, and it's a song that I try not to listen to a lot because I'm always afraid of I love my nana, my grandmother, so she's not my blood grandmother. And in the Heights, this grandmother character is not the main character's blood grandmother. She's kind of like the grandmother of the neighborhood. And spoiler alerts for In the Heights, she passes away in the musical. And I'm always afraid of like hearing that song and like thinking about my grandmother passing away. So I haven't seen it yet, but I did go see Wicked because I had to go see Wicked. How many minutes are we in of me rambling about musicals?
12.
Wow, give me another musical and I'll ramble about it for 5 minutes. Before we get into Wicked, I have a lot of thoughts about Wicked. It's just one of those things where like movie musicals are important to me. I love them. And this is fun. Give me one.
Cabaret.
Oh, Cabaret. So a Cabaret, looking into a mirror. It's set in World War II. It is about... Cabaret is kind of hard to explain what it's about. It's set in a cabaret in Germany right before the Nazis take over. And it's... Oh, funny enough, you mentioned Cabaret, though, because of the two leads in that movie. So the leads in the film is Liza Minnelli, who's Judy Garland's daughter, Dorothy herself. And then the other lead, the MC, is Joel Grey, who was in the original Broadway cast of Wicked as the wizard.
I'm not an explosion sound.
Yeah, Lilia did really good. Claps for Lilia. She did it, guys. But no, Cabaret is a really hard musical to explain. It was recently revived on Broadway, and a bunch of people saw it. And none of that, I feel like there were so many stories of people not understanding the point of a lot of the jokes they were making, and not understanding the storyline. And the fact that at the end, they're kind of like, hey, so you know the story that we just told you with what's going on in the world? It could happen again. No one seemed to fucking click that was like the point. It's a weird show to really talk about. So I guess now that we've mentioned it, that's a good segue into get into the actual movie, shall we? So I am going to give like a quick synopsis of Wicked just because that's kind of what we've been doing. Granted, it's, Wicked is Wicked. It's the story about the Wizard of Oz before the Wizard of Oz. So this is what I got from Wikipedia because where else am I going to get my synopsis from for this? So, set in the land of Oz before the events of the wonderful Wizard of Oz, the film explores the early relationships between Elphaba, the future Wicked Witch of the West, and her dormitory roommate, Glinda, who becomes Glinda the Good. That will always make me laugh is that her name before, it's not Glinda, it's Glinda. She says it like that. Because people don't ever say it right. It's Glinda. You want to know a fun fact about the name Elphaba? It's just the name of the author of The Wizard of Oz smushed together. So the author of The Wizard of Oz, his name is L. Frank Baum. L. Frank Baum, Elphaba. Lily does not give a shit. So I have seen this production on Broadway a total of 3 times. There's going to be a couple comparisons here and there because how else are you going to review this? There were a lot of changes done. I will say not as many, and I feel like the changes that were done and things that were added were actually beneficial. I was actually quite surprised to see that. I want to point out this musical runtime is about, not the film, the actual stage adaptation is about 2 hours, and I want to give it 2 hours and 30, 2 hours and 15 because there's a 15-minute intermission. So it is a pretty long musical. It's not the longest musical. I've seen longer shows, like 1776 was like 3 hours long. The film, part 1, runs at 2 hours and 30 minutes. Mind you, that is only act 1. which is insane that they were able to put so much out of this. I also want to point out that Wicked is based on a book. It is called Wicked: The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West by Gregory. Oh my God. I know this man's name. I swear. I swear. It's Gregory something. I would not recommend reading the book if you're a fan of the music. I mean, okay, I shouldn't say that. The book is very adult like. I would not. It's Gregory Maguire. I would not recommend reading the book if you are on the younger side. Granted, if you're listening to this, you're an adult. But if you ever see your like 12-year-old cousin about to read Wicked by Gregory Murphy, maybe take it away from them, because it is a very explicit adult book. The film adaptation really familyizes, like makes it really really family friendly. It is very explicit. I read this book accidentally when I was like 12 years old because I found that it was a book and bought it, and I should not have. There's actually 2 sequels, which we won't get into because I really don't know what sequel's about. So let's go into the movie. I'm mostly going to be kind of talking about the actors that are in it and the musical numbers, sets, things like that. I'm not going to go beat for beat because in all honesty, we'd be here all day. I am going to start off because what starts out the movie is that Ariana Grande was probably the perfect choice for Glinda at this point in time. Obviously, if this was done like in the early 2000s, I could not tell you who I would have picked because she has to have the singing shots, because you have to really, it's not just singing, it's having that comedic timing. And I think it was kind of funny, and you probably wouldn't see it much now. When it was announced that she was picked for Glinda, there was a good amount of people who were against it. And I feel like I was really hesitant. And the only reason I was hesitant is because I always was going to be hesitant no matter who was casted. Because again, this is a really famous musical. It's one of my favorites. There have been some amazing women who have played both roles on Broadway and all over the world. Specifically, the two originals are still just as iconic. Idina Menzel as Elphaba, Kristen Chenoweth as Glinda. You know, there's a reason why they are as iconic as they are now, and will forever be known for Wicked. I mean, yes, everyone knows Idina Menzel from Frozen, but it's the fact that we wouldn't really have that Elsa without that Elphaba, to the point where like the German voice actress for for Elsa has played Elphaba on Broadway and I believe in Germany. So again, these are kind of iconic characters. And I think when it comes to Glinda, it is all about the comedic timing. She's a very funny character, and yet she also has to be very emotional when we get towards more stuff that happens in part 2. When you watch clips, like you'll see actresses like Megan Hilty, who we have mentioned on the podcast before because she currently is in Death Becomes Her on Broadway. She's going to be leaving soon. She is hilarious. She was amazing in this role. I've seen clips, and I saw, oh man, Allie, I'm so sorry, I don't remember your last name. She was recently in Kimberly Akimbo. If you look up the original casting for that, she was hilarious. I found clips of her on TikTok as Glinda, and I think I started crying, even though they were like funny shots, because she was just amazing in that. So you really kind of have to have that comedic timing. And I think people who are surprised that Ariana Grande like did it, you have to look at the Broadway cast. It's the mom character. I seem to forget that she was in Victorious. Like, not to say that Cat Valentine is Glinda, but like people forget how freaking funny she was in that show. Like, she's playing this ditzy, silly, weird girl. Like, she had that comedic timing. What's her last name?
What was her first name?
Allie.
Oh.
Lilia was looking it up and then just didn't say anything to me. Mousy? Allie Mousy? I'm sorry if we're saying it right. Mousy. We're saying it wrong. We're sorry, Allie. But I found out recently that you were my Glinda, and I watched a clip from you, and all the memories came back. So back to Ariana. Ariana has the singing chops. We've heard it before. The Grammys not giving her good graces because she pissed them off for whatever reason has always been fucking ridiculous to me. I do think she deserves more than just the few awards that she has. You know, I hope to one day see her live. I would love to. But yeah, I think to not think that she would have been a perfect fit for this role is kind of crazy. And she kind of showed off earlier. By the way, she's been on Broadway before. She was in a musical called 13. That was adapted recently as well as a film. Oh my God, for Netflix. And it did terribly because they changed so much. And The Prom, but I don't really give a shit about The Prom. No offense if you're a fan of The Prom. But she was on Broadway, funny enough, with two of her future Victorious co-stars. So she has the singing chops. She's been a fan of Wicked for years to the point where she's seen the original Broadway cast. I don't think you could have picked anyone better than someone. I feel like you don't always have to pick someone who's like a big fan of the project they're doing, but in some cases it does help when the love and attention is there. And I think it really shows off in the way she plays this role. To the point where, like, funny enough, I feel like people forget a couple of years back, she actually did a cover of Popular with someone. It was with someone called Mika. It is probably, like, it's such a good song. The music video is so fun. So Wicked's kind of always been, she was always going to be part of Wicked. I think if she was never going to be Glinda, I wouldn't have been surprised if she would have found her way in the film in one way or another. Before we go more into this, I will talk about Cynthia Erivo. Now, for those who don't know Cynthia Erivo, she is also a Broadway vet. She's been in The Color Purple. Lilia also pointed out that was recently adapted into a film. I kind of forgot. But the thing with The Color Purple is that, for those who don't know, The Color Purple is a book, and then it was adapted into a film, and then it was adapted to a musical, and then it was adapted again to film, which I will say happens a lot. More than you would like. You'd be surprised how many times that happens. She was also she's done more films here. She has, so Color Purple was her main like Broadway role. She's appeared in more stuff in the West End because she is from over the pond. So she's done a lot of like movies. She was recently in, oh my God, what was it? There was one movie that I've seen her in. Bad Times at the El Royale. She was really good in that. She played Harriet Tubman recently in a movie, which was kind of like, I remember people were not too big on that, but I don't want to talk too much about it, but I sometimes forget that she was Harriet Tubman. But she has a fantastic voice. That's one thing you can never deny about her. She has a fantastic voice, and she was the right fit for this as well. I also want to point out, I think what is really crazy about a show like Wicked, it's been on Broadway now, I think almost 20, actually more than 20 years. I remember when it hit 10 years. I remember when it hit 15 years. When you kind of follow the journey that Elphaba is in, I feel like it's been said before, the type of women who definitely will relate to this story are those who are POCs. And yet, and this has been ratified, crazily enough, not many POCs have played Elphaba on Broadway. I feel like a good chunk have, but not as many. And then funny enough, the big elephant in the room is the fact that Glinda has really never been played by anyone but a white girl. Like one understudy one time was a POC. And then, so as much as this story celebrates diversity and all that, still got a long way to go. Especially when you look at the character like Nessa Rose, who is wheelchair bound. She later becomes the Wicked Witch of the East. She's never been played by someone who uses a wheelchair, and the like number one excuse that they use, it has since been ratified. Like we have since, but like how many years did it take? Why did it take for this film to come out? The excuse that they used was that they weren't going to be able to have a wheelchair backstage for someone to use. That they claimed that the theater was like too narrow. Like that's always been the excuse that happened when Oklahoma was revived on Broadway. One of the actors, she uses a wheelchair. She's wheelchair bound, and she won the Tony for featured actress. They literally had her on the side of the stage because there was no ramp for her to get on stage. So it was like if she would have lost, what would have happened? Like Broadway needs to work on that shit. So, but yeah, Cynthia Erivo is also amazing. I'm going to go on a tangent on a lot of things. So, we're going to get into musical numbers and other actors as we go on. I will say this film is like beautifully shot, I have to say. With the Wonderful Wizard of Oz, it is supposed to be such a colorful story. I mean, there's a whole city made out of emerald. The first shot at Munchkinland, when they kind of pan out to all those flowers, it is just so beautifully colorful. And I think that's what's amazing, because a lot of films lately I feel like get like a very dull filter over them. But this really has that pop of color that something like Wicked really needed. Costume wise, I will say I as much as I love the iconic blue Glinda dress that you see in the stage adaptation, I do appreciate that for the film they kept her all in pink. For the most part, she has been kept all in pink. I think in part 2 we have one dress that is kind of like a bluish purple, which is like fair, but Glinda has always been associated with pink because that's was looked at as a good color, as a nice color. For some reason, green is seen as bad. I don't know why, but it's always been pink. So I do love that they keep her in pink. I love that they keep some aspects of like costume choices from the stage musical into the film, such as when we first head off to Shiz, Glinda is in a pink uniform and she keeps a pink uniform. Whereas in the stage musical, they kind of do something similar where everyone's wearing blue and white. She's wearing all white to symbol her goodness. And in contrast, Elphaba is seen in a more darker version of the uniform, kind of like a grayish black in the film. And in the stage adaptation, she at one point I think is in the regular uniform, but it is still like a more darker like S-tone, because they kind of keep that of like, yeah, we know she's the green girl, but you kind of want to show that off in costume. I'm gonna go back and forth on this a lot. I apologize. So I will say another change that I wanted to bring up. So story wise, like I said, the stage musical is about 2 hours long, 2 hours 15 and change. I will say I do think they made a lot of good choices in how they expanded the musical and telling the story, such as when we open it with No One Mourns the Wicked. Glinda starts telling the story of Elphaba, and I think what was great, one, I gotta point out the one shot they do of Elphaba's mother when she's having her little affair with the man who we will, spoiler alert, figure out is the wizard, because I don't know, when it's Joel Grey singing, you kind of have to figure out that man is the wizard. It is so well choreographed and so well done. Like, it was iconic. I like that they added the character of Dulcibert, which is like the nanny, because, you kind of assume that Elphaba is in the stage musical, she is for the animals because of how she was treated, right, as herself. But like, I feel like adding the fact that she was raised by a nanny, a bear, an animal herself, and now that's all the love that she has gotten as a child. Any piece of like love that she's ever gotten, she's only ever gotten from these animals who have like helped raise her, whereas her father kind of resented and hated her, quote unquote, her father. That it's not a surprising to anyone that she would have such an affection for animals and feel a certain way when they're being like looked down upon and silenced, So I thought that was a really great addition to that. It really adds to the story, and it kind of shows the transition of like what is going on in the history of Oz, that beforehand we used to have animals talking all over the place, but yet when we get to the Wizard of Oz, when we get to the main storyline with Dorothy, it's just the Cowardly Lion. You really don't see that many animals. Which, talking about how it's shot, again, going a lot back and forth. When we open the film, we do get a shot of, obviously, Glinda announcing that she's dead. I do like that we kind of get an idea where we are Oz timeline-wise. So we see, by the way, for the fans of the musical, we do get to see a shadowy figure running across the original horse. And if you're a fan of the musical, you obviously know who that is. I don't know if I should spoil that for those who may have never seen, because a lot of people have never seen. Funny enough, a lot of people have only ever seen the film and then went to go see the musical and then were surprised by the ending of the musical. Which okay. So I'm not gonna spoil who that shadowy figure is, but if you see the musical, you know who that is. And then we do get a shot of like Dorothy and the gang walking, to the Emerald City. Which again, when you find out the history, the backstory of some of these characters, you're kind of shocked to see who they are and like think about like where we got here with them. Those I am going to spoil it because everyone knows what they are now in a little bit. So timeline-wise, in the beginning of Wicked, Dorothy is heading back to the Emerald City with the broomstick. And it's a scene where, in the end of The Wizard of Oz, where Oz gets on the balloon and he's going to take Dorothy home on the air balloon. And then instead it, like, she misses her chance because Toto jumps out of the basket and the wizard flies away, and then that's where she does "There's no place like home" with the shoes. So that's kind of where we're at. So when Glinda's in Munchkinland, she's about to leave because the wizard has since departed. So it's kind of right after Dorothy has gone home. And then we do a flashback to Shiz University, which is where Glinda and Elphaba met. I love that we see Glinda's mommykins and daddy popsicle. That's what she calls her mom and dad. It is because in the song, that's how she opens it. She goes, "Dearest Momsy and Popsicle." But I love that we get to see them. I guess now that we're at Shiz, now that I'm talking about Shiz, I will say there were 3 actors in this film that I was not 100% sure about when they were casted. One of them is Michelle Yeoh. And I know people are like, a lot of people who have said this, they get a lot of backlash. They're like, really? Against Michelle Yeoh? Madame Marble doesn't sing a lot. She does sing, though. And while Michelle Yeoh plays the role really well, she doesn't sing it really well. And that is my issue, is that you're doing a movie musical. Get people who can sing. She's not a horrible singer. She doesn't have to sing a lot. But for those who have seen Abbott Elementary, the woman who plays Barbara, she's been Madame Marble on Broadway. She's done it. Like, you could have had her do it. Again, I'm not saying Michelle Yeoh's not wrong for the part, but still. And then the other one that I'm like, although it was really funny because now that we have the film, the people who thought was going to be playing this character, I'm wondering if they were like, maybe we should have. So Dr. Dillamon, again, I'm going to go back and forth the timeline. I'm going to go all over the place because I want to talk about different things. Dr. Dillamon is the Shiz history teacher. He's one of the last talking animals who's actually teaching at Shiz. He is played by Peter Dinklage. He has one song. It's not the best song. Something Bad is kind of forgettable for me. Could have been better. It's funny because a lot of people thought that character was going to be played by either James Corden or Lin-Manuel Miranda. Everyone was freaking out. And I'm like, I feel like Lin maybe would have done it a little bit better. I'm just saying because, again, you're doing a movie musical. Why are we hiring actors who are not singers? And I'm not saying not singers, who just don't know how to sing and clearly are showing it. Like, going back to like Les Mis, Russell Crowe does not have the voice for musical theater. He was terrible as Javert. So I thought that was a terrible choice. So again, Peter Dinklage, Michelle Yeoh, they're great actors. They play the parts well. It's just the singing. You kind of have to look at it. If you're going to make them sing, you have to make it sound good. Because Jonathan Bailey, I don't think Jonathan Bailey has ever done a musical before Wicked. Because I know they were doing press for part 2 recently, and Ariana Grande made a joke about them all being singers, and Jonathan looked at himself and oh my God, what is his name? Oh my God, why am I blanking on? Oh my God, Jeff Goldblum. Ethan Slater has been on Broadway. He's SpongeBob.
Oh, they're both in the movie?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes. Why ill? Oh, Lily is controversial. Jeff Goldblum doesn't sing well either. Sentimental Man is not my favorite song, but like, God damn it. Come on. We couldn't get like a Joel Grey. Like, who's the Joel Grey of our era who could have done that? Jeff Goldblum plays the wizard so well. He is conniving. He's sneaky. It's iconic. But it's just the fact that if you have to have them sing, why not get someone who actually can sing? Jonathan Bailey worked because surprisingly, he sang Dancing Through Life super well. It was working. There were just some parts of it that I was like, could have been better. It is what it is. I guess I should mention him now that Lily has mentioned him. Ethan Slater does play the role of Bach. Ethan Slater's been on Broadway. I've actually seen him on Broadway. I have his autograph. I'm not kidding. I saw SpongeBob on Broadway, and he signed my bouncy ball because they used at the end of SpongeBob they throw beach balls, and I actually ended up keeping one of them, and I had the entire cast sign it, and he signed my playbill. I didn't like SpongeBob the musical. I didn't think it was good, but he's a good singer and he's a good character actor. Because let me tell you, playing a role like SpongeBob, I know people are thinking like it's SpongeBob. It's actually really hard, and he did it so well. And I think if you were gonna pick anyone to play the role of Bach, he was a pretty good choice. I'm not gonna talk about the controversy behind him and everything that went down. So I'm gonna get into a description of like Ethan Slater and Jonathan Bailey's characters, who they become in a minute. But my favorite line, one of my favorite lines, is when Glinda goes, "Strangers are just people I've never met." It's the fact that she loses like, "I'm such a nice girl," but she really is such a mean girl in these like silly little things she says. At one point, she goes, "I don't see color," because Elphaba does this whole thing about how she's always been green. I didn't eat grass as a kid. Like she says this a couple of times because they're all staring at her, and Glinda to her friends are like, I've never seen color. You know me, like trying to be this like I'm the innocent good girl. I was like, no, you're kind of a mean girl, but whatever. But everyone loves her. Oh, I have to give props for them adding, giving more of an extended part to Glinda's two best friend characters. One of them played by Bo and Yang from SNL, because those characters you only see them in Dancing Through Life, and then like seen slowly here and there in the musical. I think it was great to give her like these two background, like these comic relief characters to play off of her, instead of just because it really shows that she is really popular, has all these friends. In the musical we kind of see that here and there, but like it kind of goes away once she and Elphaba becomes friends. And that's something I really liked, was that, you know, when Dancing Through Life happens, Elphaba suddenly is really liked. But we'll get back to that in a second. So I really want to mention so Bach is a munchkin from Munchkinland. He is known as the tallest munchkin, and the joke is how he perceives himself as being short, because he always has to like pick himself up to make himself feel tall. Spoiler alert: he becomes the Tin Woodsman. He gets the Kid Man later, and then Jonathan Bailey, he plays Fiyero, the Prince of Winkley Country. Charming Fiyero. He's brainless. Do you know why he's brainless, Lilia? Because he later becomes a scarecrow. Oh, yeah, I know. I will say the one thing that I thought was great is that in the musical, those two don't have much interaction with each other because it's a very short musical. Very short. It's not as long as the film. Going back to my point earlier about Elphaba, I do like that they kind of made them a group of friends. Dancing Through Life kind of happens. I will say, by the way, Dancing Through Life I think is my favorite, besides Popular, of all the musical numbers. It is one of my favorite numbers in the musical, and the fact that they did it so well, Jonathan Bailey really exudes that like charm that Fiyero has to have, and like getting the school together to dance and have fun and everything, and it's so beautifully done. I like that we take it out of like She's University, and the costumes are beautiful. The choreography is all there, especially the choreography between Elphaba and Glinda, because they kind of do a dance together to connect, and then they all become friends afterwards. And I think that was such a good choice, is that it's, you know, it's Elphaba, Glinda, Fiyero, Bach, and Nessa Rose kind of form the small friendship group, and Elphaba becomes well liked, and you see bits and pieces of Bach and Fiyero getting along. It's not like a rivalry. Like, yeah, Bach is into Glinda, and he knows that he's with Fiyero, but he doesn't have a disdain towards Fiyero. And I think why that makes that so great is because when you realize later on in the future, those two are going to be helping out Dorothy, you know, you kind of realize like, how are they going to get along? They do, because they were friends in the past, and they put all that aside. And then I think what's great about, you know, we don't see it a lot in the musical. I'm going to say that a lot. Elphaba is shown in the film to be more well liked by her peers. They all get excited for her when the wizard invites her to the Emerald City, because it shows that in the end, when she has to make this tough decision of her morals or having everyone loved her, it really shows how much she has to lose. How she started off with so little and then just ends up losing everything, right? Whereas Glinda has always had friends and will always be well liked. And there's a reason why she picked it, because she knew she lost it, she would lose everything, and she's only ever had that. Whereas Elphaba knew that it wouldn't matter to her because she's never had that, and she was willing to lose it because she's already felt what it's like without friends. Speaking of Nessa Rose, I know I said her name earlier. Props for them to getting a wheelchair bound actress to play her. Snaps. She's fantastic in the role. She's very beautiful. I do enjoy that they kind of made them more sisterly. In the musical, they are not very close. It's kind of like the first time they go to Shiz, they're not very close. It's more like Nessa Rose is a sweet angel. She's like the golden child, and she's sweet to Elphaba, but it's very clear that she would rather not be around Elphaba, and is kind of forced to. At least is how I see it. Whereas in the movie, she kind of sticks by her sister, and even though she's still trying to be her own person, it's not so much because of the fact that her sister is green. It's because her dad has kind of been suffocating them. Because for those who don't know, so Elphaba is born because of her mom's affair with the wizard, because we find that out later, and of this green elixir that she drank. That's why she turned green and has all this power. When they got pregnant the second time, when it was her not her really dad, but her, dad, who is the governor of Munchkinland. I want to point out Elphaba is technically a Munchkin. The Wicked Witch of the West is technically a Munchkin. When you think about it, it's kind of funny. When you think about that. Her dad made her mother eat this like special flour because it was supposed to help make sure that the baby didn't turn out green. And what it ended up doing was not only killing her, but twisting Nessa's legs so she couldn't walk. So Nessa, I think making them more, having that Dulce Bear character that I talked about earlier, right? Kind of shows, I think, that Elphaba was cared for and loved as a child, and she learns that compassion. And she's always loved her sister. Even in the musical, she kind of shows that she wants to take care of Nessa, but it kind of builds in a more sisterly bond. I have to also give props to the two girls who play young Elphaba and Nessa Rose. They are so adorable and so cute. They did so well in that very short scene that they were in. But yeah, because so with a scene like Dancing Through Life, which I think is like the second biggest number in this movie. We're gonna get to One Short Day in a minute. In the musical, Nessa leaves when Elphaba shows up. She gets embarrassed. In the film, she's about to leave, but she kind of hides back, and then she joins in when they all accept Elphaba after Elphaba and Glinda dance. She stays and joins in. So I think that was such a good thing because it kind of showed them also getting close. My one gripe about the film is the fact that it's a 2-hour and 30-minute movie, and I feel like we still rush through shiz. Because Dancing Through Life happens, Popular happens, and her and Glinda become really close. Glinda realizes that Elphaba actually really is a thoughtful person, gets her into this like magic seminar that she was the only one a part of with Madame Marble. But they become really close. Like, they become attached to the hip way too quickly. And we don't see a lot of it. And we don't either in the musical, but I feel like they could have done a little bit more with that. Sorry, brain fart. So it was like that one thing where I was like, we spent a lot of time at the school, but it also feels like we spend very little time at the school. I do like that we get to see Elphaba and Madame Marble's classes, because that was my one thing about the musical, is that it also feels like we rush through shiz, because again, it's a 2-hour musical. There are some things I wish we would see more of. I'm glad that we added certain scenes because it really explained more of like how Elphaba's powers are. Like, we do see little bits and pieces of how strong she is and how her emotions play into that. So that's kind of like a good chunk of the film. I will quickly talk about the end where we start at the Emerald City. One Short Day is probably my favorite scene in the entire show. It's iconic. And what they do in the film, first off, the fact that there's a train to the Emerald City is wild. My poor girl Dorothy had to walk all the way there. What the hell? My poor girl, her poor feet in heels, no less. This is a 10-year-old. I want to point out, Dorothy technically supposed to be like 10, 11 years old. She wearing heels. Which, by the way, in Wicked, they make them silver. So the ruby red slipper thing is an MGM thing. It's not actually the original lore. The reason why they're ruby red slippers in the film is because they look better on film back then. In every book adaptation and every other film adaptation, they've always been silver slippers. And in this one, no less, they are silver slippers. We do see a cameo from ruby slippers in Popular. Glinda kind of pulls them out. So that's a good nod. But yeah, no, the ruby slippers are actually silver slippers, which we do see them. They were Elphaba's mother, and we see Nessa Rose wear them during Dancing Through Life. I think they're really well designed for what it is for Wicked. One Short Day is kind of where we get all the big cameos. So it is the introduction to the Emerald City, and you get a little bit of a backstory of the wizard, and they add more to it, which is great. It is where we finally get to see Miss Adina Menzel and Christian Chanowitz. They do appear as like storytellers, and it's a blink it if you miss it moment, but you actually get to see Gregory Maguire. He makes a cameo, and then Whitney. People are going to be mad at me for not knowing her last name, but I believe she either directed or wrote the book for the musical as well. I don't think Steven Schwartz has a cameo. Actually, no. Steven Schwartz is the guard. It's Whitney Halsman. She co-wrote Wicked. I believe she wrote the book. Steven Schwartz is the composer to all the songs. He also composed musicals like Godspell. He is the guard in One Short Day. So again, a lot of cameos. The only Broadway cast cameos we get though is Adina Menzel and Christian Chanowitz. I wish we would have gotten a Nora Leo Butts and a Joel Grey cameo. That would have been amazing. I'm hoping we get some cast cameos in part 2, but whatever. So One Short Day, I do think it's also really funny that so they present the Grimly a little bit early in One Short Day, and they talk about how the wizard knew how to read it because he said the word Omaha. Omaha. That's how he they believed it when he's just saying where he's from. But they don't know that because they don't know what Omaha is. So this is where we get to meet Joel Grey. I'm not Joel Grey. Jeff Goldblum. Wish it was Joel Grey. But that man is, I think, 90 years old now. That man's old. He's a treasure. I don't give a shit about the song Sentimental Man. It is his one number. It's a song. I'm hesitant because I know we're getting Wonderful in part 2, and I know they added Glinda into Wonderful, which is great because I don't think I would have cared about Wonderful, because I don't care for the wizard songs. But I feel like we don't. I want to point out, I was watching this last night. I was rewatching some of Wicked last night. The last bit in the Emerald City is about 30 minutes. At least it was the runtime when I checked. I guess if you take out the credits, maybe 20 minutes. I feel like 20 minutes. Again, I feel like we rushed through some of this because we're trying to get to the end of Act 1, and we get to Defying Gravity, and it's iconic as always, and it ends and we go from there. So, I mean, there's not much I have to say for the ending because it's the end of Act 1. I will always love Defying Gravity, but I've always been more of a Glinda girl. So, popular between the two solo songs for the two characters, it's been Popular is the Glinda song and Defying Gravity is the Elphaba song. Popular has always been my favorite. So I apologize if I'm not really doing a good job of explaining Elphaba too much because I've always been a Glinda girl. But that being said, and I think a lot of people have seen this in terms of how people are reacting to how they're promoting this and how people are reacting. I kind of felt this was Ariana Grande heavy. This is really Glinda heavy. There's a lot of Elphaba, but I feel like the parts that people most remember are the Glinda parts, which I get because. I don't know if it's because it's Ariana or if it's just Glinda. I mentioned the costumes. All of them are iconic. I want her Popular robes. They were so pretty. So pretty. The songs were just, I think, really well done. The actors, we do get a little snippet of it is one of those things where if you've never seen Wicked, it clicks to you who is who. Besides the Wicked Witch of the West and the Witch of the North, if you didn't catch that Fiyero singing Brainless was to allude that he was the Scarecrow, crazy. I will say for Bach, I feel like if you've seen the musical, you kind of figure out that he's going to be the woodsman. I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen the first act, but they gave him the last name Woodsman, Bach Woodsman. They're like, get it? He's the Tin Man. He's the Tin Woodsman. And then we do see the Cowardly Lion. Oh, I guess I should mention there is the storyline of animal cruelty, because they are preventing animals from talking. I get because Something Bad is just a song I've always skipped off the soundtrack, even when it was just a musical. I do like that we get a little bit more into it with showing that the animals were really apparent in their society, seeing as Elphaba being raised by one. I will say it was really creepy to see Chistery, who is one of the flying monkeys. He's not a flying monkey until Elphaba turns him into one by accident, and then seeing the horrors of her accidentally turning all the monkeys in the Emerald City into like flying monkeys. In the musical, it's really scarily done because you're watching an actor and the wings are like made of like wiring and metal, and they kind of like really pop out, and they use lighting and sound. And in the movie, obviously it's going to be more CGI. It's still really creepily done. It's really scary. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of everything I have to say about Wicked. I guess I could talk a little bit about like production wise. I love that my last note is in the same way as the play. Defying Gravity is perfect. um, the lighting was amazing, costume was amazing, production was amazing. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I feel like wow, last episode, both 8 out of 10s. I'm only giving it that is because I felt like there were some scenes that like were really slow, and then some of them were like really rushed, and I wish we could have gotten a little more out of it. And I like the changes in some parts, and there are some that I didn't care for. And I think it doesn't help that there were just some actors in there who weren't really singers. And although they weren't given big singing parts, I feel like if we're going to do a movie musical, can we please just start hiring actors who actually can sing, instead of just hiring for their names? Again, this is not to like talk down on like Michelle Yeoh and Jeff Goldblum for being like, and Peter Dinklage, they play their parts really well. I'm kind of sick and tired of hiring actors just for their names. At least we knew Ariana can sing. At least we knew Cynthia Erivo can sing. Ethan Slater, they're all Tony nominated. Well, Ariana's not Tony nominated, but Cynthia and Ethan are. Jonathan Bailey proved he could sing. Any other actors in the show? I mean, funny enough, even the woman who played Elphaba's mother in that one scene, she's been in Hamilton. She was in Hamilton. So, like, there are famous people who have been on Broadway. And then they don't have to be on Broadway, but at least, I don't know. It just is a little gripe for me that I'm like, really? But again, it doesn't mean that they didn't play their roles great. I do want to talk because we are in the midst of part 2 coming out. The amount of promotion part 1 had was insane. And I'm looking back and disappointed that I didn't buy enough merch. And I have now. Like, I have a pin. I wish I had the Stanley Cups. I don't like Stanley Cups, but I want the Wicked ones. I do have a Loungefly bag. This literally was 10 years in the making. Like, we really didn't think this movie was ever going to come out. This has been on Broadway for so long, and people were like, how are we going to adapt this? And the fact of the matter is, sometimes a lot of these Broadway musical adaptations usually happen, and then the show closes, and that's not going to happen to Wicked. I mean, I don't think it may run as long as Phantom. This might surpass Phantom. Who knows? And it's still running on Broadway. There have been some iconic actors who have been in it. So Alex Brightman was Bach at one point on Broadway. From Ad Elementary we talked about already. Carol Lindsay, Laura Bell Bundy. Everyone's like, who are these people? They're Broadway actors, but they are still iconic people. Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth have kind of are the big names. Taye Diggs was in this at some point. Your Stephanie J. Blocks. So Wicked is that musical. It'll always be that musical. It's kind of amazing how like this is probably one of the perfect movie musicals we've had in a really long time. The fact that it was nominated for so many Oscars, it didn't win that many, and it's been who knows, it might get nominated again. Because I kind of foresee that Wicked Part 2 is going to be just as iconic as like Part 1 was. I'm looking forward to it. Out of all the songs, I think they were just all really well. I will say song-wise, they were all well done. Even the songs done by actors who really aren't singers, I will say for the most part were really well done. And there is just nothing more that I could say that I can think of. So I'm going to say when we're recording this because when this comes out, part 2 would already be out. We are recording this on the 14th. Wicked for Good comes out on November 21st. I most likely will see it either that first weekend or the second weekend. I don't know. Song list is already out. We are getting an Oscar running, like a song to kind of race for original song, which is oh my god, I already pre-saved the soundtrack because I'm psychotic. So The Girl in the Bubble, which is a new song they wrote for Glinda. I don't think it might get a nomination, but it's probably I will say this for The Girl in the Bubble, because we've already talked about our Grammy nomination picks, right? Because they already came out. It's going to be going against Golden by Huntrix from K-pop Demon Slayer, K-pop Demon Hunter, sorry. Although, I don't know, because I'm still confused. So, kind of a little tangent could go off what we were talking about. I was talking about the last 2 episodes. It was between our last recording and now, it was announced that K-pop Demon Hunters is not eligible for the BAFTAs, which is it's a British award. It's a movie award. And it's one of those awards that, like, when you're kind of predicting the Oscars, it's one of those awards that kind of have to go in there sometimes. So who knows how this race might go? Rule wise, it didn't catch eligibility because it wasn't in theaters long enough. So movies like Turning Red, when that came out, Disney Plus put it on in theaters. I think for like 2 weekends or a weekend and a half, that like it had enough screen showings that it qualified. Whereas K-pop Demon Hunters didn't. They did it twice, but it's kind of like the first round. And obviously there are exceptions for like when we were in the pandemic and people couldn't go to the theaters, but that's kind of long past. So I couldn't tell you what the prediction is going to be for the Oscars. I feel like Sinners might take it. If Sinners doesn't get anything else, just because I don't know, there's something about the songs from Sinners that I think once you kind of put them all next to each other might surpass. So Girl in the Bubble has to be like iconic. But in the past, when we've done musical movie adaptations and they do write that extra song to get that extra Oscar in there because it's a musical and they're not sure if they'll get any, it's really rare that that song wins. The only time I can think about it winning was, funny enough, in the I can't remember if it came out in the 90s or the early 2000s, but the way Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber got his Oscar was because they wrote the song "You Must Love Me" for Madonna for the Evita movie, and now that song has put in every single revival of Evita. Although I don't know if it was done in the most recent revival, but that song was in the revival that I saw. So that was written for the musical. I don't think it'll win I don't think Girl in the Bubble is going to win for the Oscar. In terms of what might happen, I know they kind of alluded we won't see Dorothy's face. Which I hope they don't, because that was kind of like something they did in the stage play that I think was really well done, is that we don't see her. We know that she's there, but she's not a big part of the story. She just is a small part of how this continues. I am so happy because they didn't do this for the musical, and I remember it's kind of sad because the only way to hear this song is to see it on Broadway. The Wicked Witch of the East is Nessa Rose's big song. It's not a long song. It's kind of in the same tune of I want to say it was Ravai, but maybe I'm not that girl. See, this is what I mean. It's not a song that is on any soundtrack of Wicked. It's the weird thing about Broadway sometimes is that certain stage shows, if they're musicals, sometimes not every single song will get on the cast recording because it's either too short or it reveals too much in the plot, which makes no sense as to why this one never made it, because we know she's the Wicked Witch of the East because she's Elphaba's sister, but this song for some reason has never made the cast recording cut. But it's making it for the film, and I think that's amazing. I'm so happy we're finally going to get an actual cast recording like drop of that song. So I'm kind of excited to see. We are going to get again, I hope we don't see Dorothy, but I feel like we may or may not, because we are going to see the Cowardly Lion. He has been casted. It's not Lin-Manuel Miranda. Wish it was. No, the guy who they got is great, but I'm like, I don't know why everyone hates Lin-Manuel. He's kind of become the James Corden now. And I'm like, Lin-Manuel's great. Stop hating on him. But he had to come out and be like, hey, I'm not the Cowardly Lion. It's not me. He's like, I promise it's not me. Like, give my boy a chance. Viva Puerto Rico, come on. Anyway, the costume song was iconic. I know they're doing Thank Goodness, and they already announced what some people have already seen screenings of it, and they did announce that one scene was kind of cut. One dress of Arelize was cut. That's part of Thank Goodness. So I'm kind of worried that Thank Goodness might be shortened, and I would hate that because I love Thank Goodness. The ending of that song always scratches my brain when I hear Kristen Chenoweth sing it. So that's kind of like what my hopes are for part 2. I'm kind of just excited to see it. I do want to talk about this now and not when we do Wicked for Good because it's going to be way past and this is kind of fresh in my mind now. So this past weekend, or not this past weekend, but yesterday, as I'm recording this, the Singapore premiere for Wicked for Good happened. And on the red carpet, some jackass who has been known to do this jumped over the barrier and attacked Ariana Grande, kind of jumped on her and basically assaulted her. And obviously a lot of people are defending her. And I've seen a few people talk about like, well, who cares? You know, he's not like he harmed her or anything. Shit like that is scary, guys. We don't know if he would have had a gun or something. And I know he's done this before, but we don't know what he would have done. And I just want to say, I fucking hate when people ruin premieres and things like that for everyone else. Because that poor, I want to say, I have to give Ariana Grande props for the fact that she is doing what she does in terms of touring and doing promotion for films and things like that. Because I feel like everyone forgets the Manchester bombing that happened years ago at her concert. So I just am so disgusted that someone would do that to her at such a fun time. Wicked is something that's really near and dear to her heart. She was so excited to do this. And the fact that someone could ruin the press tour like that for her is just horrible. And I hope she's feeling better and I hope she's doing better. Obviously, by the time we publish this, it'll be long past. But I wanted to bring that up. I didn't want to do it during when we record part 2 because I didn't want to. I just didn't want that to overshadow like us talking about the film. But I did want to mention that. So let's just stop doing stupid shit for clout, people. All right, let's just stop doing stupid shit. Anyway, I guess we should end on a happy note. Okay, so my song for the episode is going to be one that was actually featured on the, I believe, the 10th anniversary / deluxe edition of the Wicked musical, featuring our current Glinda, Ariana Grande. It is going to be Popular by Mika. It is still such an iconic cover of a song. It's fun, it's poppy, and the music video is like iconic. I love it. I will say Ariana Grande really knows how to do music videos because that's her song right there. She has that Romeo and Juliet like music video for it. So good. And Popular was just so fun. So I can't wait for Wicked Part 2. I'm so excited. And yeah, so that's it for this week, guys. And we'll catch you at the next one. Bye. All right, guys, that's it for this entry. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media accounts. On Twitter, you can find us at FG Diaries Pod. On Tumblr, TikTok, and Instagram, you'll find us at FG Diaries Podcast. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe, and hope you all have a wonderful fangirly day.